Yeah. What's up? What's good? What it do? It's your boy BQ. This is the Cool Factor podcast on the Impact Lounge. This is another solo episode. TW is slammed with work tonight. So I told him I was going to knock this out by myself. And what we're going to try to do this week, if we can make it happen, is do an additional podcast, just kind of a special edition of the Cool Factor where we're kind of talking about some topics, not reviewing the show. I always like to preface when I review a show by myself that I do it a little bit quicker, obviously, because I'm by myself. So it's going to be a shorter episode. This is a live stream on YouTube right now. And when I do live stream by myself, I'm also not really checking the comments. So any conversations being had is between you guys who are watching me live. So thanks for checking me out and checking us out. As always, if it's your first time here, hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up. We're going to talk this episode of Impact, and let's do this. So this is the first thing on my mind before we really get into the episode itself. And I touched a little bit on this last week as far as the show, every week being really, really good from a wrestling standpoint, right? The matches have been really, really good. I mean, pretty much every single match on the card. I can't even go back how far it is, but at least the last month, the last 5 weeks, there's been like this huge uptick in the actual wrestling on the show. And then the creative side is leaving like a lot to be desired right now, which usually it's kind of been the other way around. Not to say that they haven't had good matches, but it always seems like it's real focused on creative and storylines. And, you know, they put on good matches, but typically what the formula was you had a good opening match and a good main event. And then the 2 or 3 matches in between, you know, might have a comedy match in there. You might have some BS match. Then you might have like a decent match in there. But for a long time, that was the formula. The bookends, as I like to call it, the beginning and the end. Right now, top to bottom, for the most part, really, really good wrestling. So I talked about that a little bit last week. I was wondering today, are they changing up their television strategy, their formula for how to create a TV show? Because it almost seems to me like they are trying to, and I might be looking way too much into this. It almost seems like they're trying to be what Ring of Honor used to be. The old version of it, the one that they were kind of competing against for like who's number 2 at the time, you know, distant number 2, but they were kind of going back and forth, you know, who's better, Impact or Ring of Honor. There was that small period of time. And I'm starting to wonder, are they trying to emulate what Ring of Honor was doing at that time, where it was a very wrestling heavy show, very little creative, and they put everything into their pay-per-views. It was almost like they didn't care. Ring of Honor, this is. It's almost like they didn't care if someone wasn't watching the show, if people didn't tune in and watch it. For the most part, though, with Ring of Honor back then, you could miss all the television shows and you weren't really missing much. You know, you might miss a little bit about who's feuding or whatever. But because of the way that ROH was presented, you were okay just getting a card of wrestling matches. Like, okay, these matches look really good, and that was enough. That was it for you as a viewer if you were a fan of that. So I'm wondering, you know, is this a wrestling heavy show on purpose? What I had said last week was that if you look at the champions, Mike Bailey, Josh Alexander, these are not guys that typically they've had like really intriguing storylines for these guys. They've just gone out there and had kick-ass matches. And those are your 2 big singles champions right now. So it's almost like they're building the show around those guys' style of wrestling. You know, rather than this is what I was saying last week, rather than have a really good creative show with these awesome storylines, and then you have these 2 champions who cut decent promos and just go out there and wrestle. It just seems like they're kind of like in sports, you have a quarterback and you're like, I'm going to build around the strengths of this quarterback, or I'm going to build around the strengths of this point guard. So it just almost seems like they're trying to build around the strengths of those two wrestlers. But I'm just wondering, are they, I mean, the viewership has been kind of trending downwards lately. So now I'm just kind of wondering, are they trying to say, okay, if you don't watch the show, cool, we're going to put on these awesome matches that hopefully get people talking. They're hoping maybe to create buzz through the actual physical stuff and just try to get people to the pay-per-view and then be known for putting on kick-ass pay-per-views. Like maybe they're putting less into the television show right now, if that makes sense. If you guys just tuned in, this is a solo stream. TEW will not be joining me today. So with that being said, I will not be going through the comments because then that just kind of disjoints the show. So for anyone leaving comments on the stream, you guys are BSing with each other. I probably won't be seeing them unless I have a question in specific that I need to ask you guys, because a lot of the listeners are really up on this shit. There's stuff that I'm always like, man, I don't remember this, I don't remember that, and there's always someone there who's like, okay, this is it, so I really appreciate that from you guys. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. I'm just wondering, are they changing the television strategy up? Are they just like, hey, we're gonna stop chasing the viewership, we're just gonna try to create buzz through putting on awesome matches, because their YouTube is just clips and this and that. It's just wrestling. There's no original content or no nothing like that. So now they're just like, hey, we're just going to promote these great matches and hope that people are intrigued through that, and it kind of makes sense because they bring in so many people for 3 months, 2 months, 6 months, guys from Japan, whatever. They're just there to wrestle. You know what I mean? They don't got time to be involved in a storyline long term. You know what I mean? So just interesting stuff. It just seems like every episode is kind of proving the point that they're just trying to be a wrestling heavy show right now. I thought that after probably 2 episodes of where I noticed the actual matches were a huge step up. And now I'm just continuing to see the trend. So let's get into the actual episode itself. This was a very, very solid show. And just like I've been saying since I started recording here, just good matches. Really, really good wrestling. They recapped last week. And the thing that I've been really hammering on lately is that Impact takes too long to start. The show takes too long. There's, 2 minutes of clips, 2 minutes of We Own the Night. And it's like by the 4-minute mark, I think it's the 3 or 4 minute mark consistently. That's like when the show kicks off. But I was listening to good old Jim Cornette this week, and he was talking about you have to recap people because, the point he was making, and he's not wrong for those of you who watch AEW, you can watch every single episode of AEW. You can watch it for months and not miss an episode. And there's always something that's going to hit you where you're like, I don't understand the story. I don't understand why these people are teaming up. I don't understand why these people are feud. Like there's always something that you're completely lost about, where you feel like you missed something. Did I miss an episode? That's what it feels like. So as much as I don't like the fluff at the beginning, I kind of get it at the same time. Got to recap of people a little bit. But the machine guns had nothing to do with this episode. That's why I don't know how important that really was, with the exception of some of the post-match shenanigans. But I feel like you could probably, intertwine what the hell is that word? Intertwine some of those clips into the show where it's relevant to the match that's going to happen or the storyline. You know what I mean? I think it's just a better way to format the show, because I do think it hurts you when you say it takes so long to start it. But anyway, the first match of this thing, and I just said earlier, I've talked about the bookends. The first match and the last match have traditionally been killer. This match, Eddie Edwards versus Ace Austin. So Eddie had Kenny King in his corner. Ace Austin had Chris Bay in his corner. The Bullet Club is presented as baby faces on Impact. You guys, I'm always saying I hate cool heels. I hate the Bullet Club. I like Ace and Chris Bay, but like for the most the idea of the Bullet Club, I don't like. I've never been a real big fan of it because I mean I can guarantee you these fools, Austin and Bay, are going to end up being heels like in a couple months on the show, or maybe even a couple weeks on the show. The Bullet Club thing is just all over the place. I'm not a big fan of it, but this match right here, Eddie Edwards and Ace Austin. Whew. This was an excellent opener. This was fantastic. I don't even use that word fantastic, but I can't think of any other way to put it. Just a killer freaking match. And it was so different because we've seen these guys wrestle in the past, but Ace Austin has obviously been the heel, Eddie Edwards the face. So completely different dynamic. But this was incredible. I was really into it. And it was a different spin on this whole feud. So, I've been tweeting lately has kind of been in regards to this freaking Bullet Club versus Honor No More thing. It is the gift that keeps on giving. They keep freaking wrestling. They've already had like 2 5-on-5 matches, and they're going to have another. And there's always these tag team matches. These fools just keep wrestling each other. And it's never good enough. The story they're trying to say is, well, okay, Honor No More is winning these a couple of these matches. Where's our tag team title shot? I'm so lost in this story. I don't even know why they deserve a tag team title shot. I think they said they pinned Luke Gallows in one of these matches. I think that's what he had said. So I think that's what the justification is. But I mean, my God, we're taking forever to get wherever we're trying to go. And the long-term story is cool, but when you turn the pages and you go to the next chapter, like there has to be some kind of progression. And this is just these guys fighting all the time and over what? Like, I don't know. I just really haven't enjoyed it. I liked the idea of Honor No More at first very much. I'm not enjoying this feud whatsoever. I just feel like every time they promote an episode of Impact, it's these fools fighting each other. And I don't care how good the wrestlers are, how good the matches are. You can't just give people the same thing. Maybe this is taboo to talk about on a podcast. My favorite porn star is Bridget B. All right. I have on my phone a playlist of Bridget B. I mean, this thing is alphabetized. Like it's like, here's her scenes with the pizza delivery man and her stepson and, her pastor or whatever it is. Okay. And even though I enjoy her work, if I'm watching videos in this playlist, there's only so many ways I can see her perform. She's not busting out anything new that I haven't seen before. So maybe that's a little taboo and maybe that's not a good example. But I don't care how good Kenny King is and how good Eddie Edwards is and Chris Bay and Ace Austin and all these dudes. There is only so much you can do when these fools keep fighting each other. Now, this was a little different because it was a one-on-one match. And Eddie Edwards has not been involved in a lot of the tag matches, with the exception of the 5-on-5s. He hasn't been super involved, so it works. It freshens it up a little. And, to make an AEW reference, you guys love it. Obviously, they have a lot of stables in AEW. And a lot of them feud against each other. But what they do is that they really switch up the partners. So we're just going to say it's like the Jericho Appreciation Society. Well, they're a little newer. So let me take it back to Jericho's Inner Circle. There'd be 1 week where it's Jericho and Sammy Guevara versus these two guys. And then the next week, it's like randomly Jake Hager and Ortiz. They switch up the partners within the stables is what I'm saying to freshen it up. So what I'm getting at is OGK doesn't have to wrestle together. It could be this week it's Kenny King and Mike Bennett versus Luke Gallows and Chris Bay. I mean, doesn't that sound so much more intriguing and interesting? Because it's the same feud, but it's very, very fresh. I've brought up the example before of like candy bars and boxes of cereal. Like Captain Crunch comes out with a brand new freaking box with new designs and this and this. It's the same freaking cereal in there, but every once in a while they got to change up the packaging to catch people's eye so that they buy the damn cereal when they normally might not. Okay? So there is a way to give us these matches where they can be fresh instead of like it just always feels like it's some kind of Good Brothers versus, and it's OGK versus like switch the shit up a little. So that's why this the one-on-one actually worked. But I'm going to give them a pass this week because this opening match was really, really good. It was a longer match, but it's okay too. Like it wasn't these guys are kicking out of super finishers and shit like that. Impact is very good with how often they go for falls. There's not a lot of kickouts in a match in comparison to what AEW does or what the older Ring of Honor did, where it's like, oh my god, what the hell is it going to take to beat this guy? They don't take it to that point. There's some near falls, but it's like they're very strategic with it. So I really do feel that Impact has the best wrestling matches in the business right now. Obviously, someone who doesn't watch Impact is going to hear that and say, LOL. But there's more than flippity doodah, tickle dick with each other for 25 minutes. Like, they're not kicking out of each other's finishers and doing all this crap. So great match, great opener. After this, I don't know why wrestling companies do this, and Impact they do this every episode. Gia Miller is frantically running around backstage with the microphone looking for Heath. Like, is it that serious? Why can't they just have an interview segment where I'm here with Keith and you ask a question, like, instead of like the impression that she's running around with the mic and bringing the cameras along with her, it's so silly. Like it doesn't. It's who does that in real life? When you're watching a game on TV like this, they just interview LeBron James after the game. They don't go right LeBron. I don't know why wrestling companies do that. It's freaking silly. But Heath said something about something. I've made it pretty clear I don't care about whatever the hell they're doing. I mean, he's attacking Honor No More, but he's not a part of this match. Like we'll get to this in a little bit, but they're likely going to disband. What is Heath's role in all that? I can see him interfering and causing this disbandment, if that's a word. It probably isn't. It might be. I don't know what. He might play a role in it, but it's like at this point, it's really random. It's like we just need to find something for Heath to do. So it's just not super interesting, in my opinion. Then we got Gia Miller again interviewing Josh Alexander. They got to find a way to get him on the show. I liked that Alex Shelley, because I think we've talked about this on the podcast a little bit. I know Cornette goes off on it. He goes, every time there's a backstage interview in AEW, no one can say 5 words before someone comes and interrupts them. And Impact was doing that for a little bit, but now they're not. They're doing a better job of that, much better job of it. So here, Josh wasn't talking, and then Alex Shelley just walks up, because why would Josh not know he's there? You know what I mean? Like, he can't just walk up after Josh has said 2 words. Like, that means he knows he's standing right there. So at least Josh got most of his promo out, and then Alex Shelley came up. So that was, little things, but really good job with that. The match that they have is going to be stupid. It's going to be incredible at Emergence. Again, it's just good wrestling matches, no real stories. It's just, we're just putting these great wrestlers against each other. That just seems to be what they're doing right now. Laredo Kid and Trey Miguel took on Johnny Swinger and Zicky Dice. At first, I thought Laredo Kid and Trey Miguel were wrestling each other. And I said, what? Why again? And then I saw it was a tag match. Okay, cool. 3 people in this match never win. So Laredo Kid got that. And I forgot to point out in the last match, Eddie Edwards won the match. Sorry about that. I said how good it was, but I didn't say, hey, this is the dude who won. He used that Tiger Driver, whatever it is he calls it, Emerald Fusion, whatever it is. I like the Boston Knee Party personally. That's a move I like for whatever reason. Anyway, so Laredo Kid, Trey Miguel versus Johnny Swinger and Zicky Dice. Laredo Kid gets the win in all this. He gets the pin. Like I don't think I've ever seen Laredo Kid beat somebody. I think I saw him beat what is his name? The one jobber they have on the roster. I completely forgot. But I think I've only ever seen him win like one match. John Schuyler, sorry. I don't even know what Laredo Kid's finisher is. And this is his second time in Impact. He was in it during the little Global Force shit with Jeff Jarrett, and now he's there. I don't know what his. I could not tell you what his finisher is. I couldn't tell you what Zicky Dice's finisher is. I know Swingers because he wrestled a couple jobbers when he first got to the company. This match was a little too competitive. Like it went kind of long. At first, when I saw these two teams against each other, I was like, okay, these guys, there's gonna do some high flying shit. The match is gonna be over in like 3 minutes. It went a little long, which furthers my point that they're just trying to deliver good wrestling for the matches. Even the ones that are typically, not typically, but previously been a joke match. These guys are actually wrestling, getting a little offense in. Like Swinger and Zicky Dice did not get their ass kicked by any means. They got offense in. There was still the humor. They put on the mat like the demolition mask, and they were trying to do the Killer Bees thing. For those of you who are younger, the Killer Bees were Brian Blair and Jim Brunzell. And this was back when tag teams dressed exactly the same. So they had like a bee pattern, the yellow trunks with the black stripes. During the match, they would put on a mask, and you didn't know who was who. So that's like the Killer Bees reference if you're not familiar with it. And they try to do this here, but they're obviously not dressed the same. They have different builds. So it was pretty funny. It took me a long time to come around on this Johnny Swinger stuff, but I have come around on it, and a funny ass dude. He is a very, very funny ass dude. But yeah, Laredo Kid gets a pin. Like, wow. Never seen him beat anyone. Maybe that's his finisher, that splash he did off the top rope. I wouldn't know because so many wrestlers in the company don't have cool finishers. They just do moves. They're just normal moves you would see anywhere. I'm not going to go off on that right now. I'm enjoying the Brian Myers, Bhupinder, Gujar thing. I'm not going to call him Gujar. Bhupinder and Brian Myers. I'm enjoying that right now a lot because I love everything Brian Myers does. I've always said that you can't just be funny. Like you're either funny or you're not funny. That just goes with anything in this world. You can write the same script for Adam Sandler and Nicolas Cage, and they're both comedies, but same like comedic script, and Adam Sandler is going to make it funny because he's funny. So Impact's getting away from the bad comedy a little bit. They're saying, okay, Swinger's funny, Zicky Dice is Zicky Dice, Brian Myers is funny. What's his name? Cardona when he's around is funny. They're starting to recognize, okay, these people can deliver stuff that might be cheesy for others, but they can make it funny. So I'm enjoying Brian Myers as the digital media champion right now. It's a joke title. It was a joke title from the day they announced it, from the first press release when they showed what the title looked like, when they said how it was going to be defended and how it's not been defended like that ever since. It's been a joke from the very beginning. It's a joke title. So Brian Myers is a good person to be holding it. And this really gives, and this is why we always said they need a secondary title. And technically this is kind of a secondary title because it's giving people who normally have nothing to fight for something to fight for. Because that was something I was always saying. I was like, the majority of this roster isn't fighting for anything. The X Division says, okay, we're no limits. Like, that was just something they conveniently said for Samoa Joe and Abyss. But if you look at the X Division now, I mean, what big guys have wrestled in the freaking X Division in the last several years? Maybe there's one or two dudes. They had Marche Rocket for a little bit, but the X Division was irrelevant at the time. Josh Alexander is not as big of a dude as we we think he is. He's still he's not this giant opposing dude, is what I'm saying. I think Falaba maybe had a match there, AC Romero here and there, whatever, but it's a freaking lightweight division. It's a cruiserweight division. Plain and simple. All these guys were fighting for nothing. Now they have something to fight for, even if it's a freaking joke title. Because what else would Bhupinder Singh be doing right now? Jack shit. I'm sorry, he used to be Bhupinder Singh. He'd be doing jack shit. So Brian Myers ducking him and all that stuff is funny. What's really funny is that Decay walks up, and it's crazy. Steve's talking about who in their right mind would want to wrestle Black Taurus. Like, I'll wrestle him because he hasn't beat. I have a good a chance as beating him as anybody on the roster because he's never beat anybody. He's got a couple BTI wins and stuff like that. I mean, but come on, So the company has obviously been like, okay, this new version of Decay has not worked. It has not even remotely tapped what the old Decay was. Not even close. Not in the same stratosphere. Not even close. So now they're just, okay, Havoc's going to do this. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then these two are just going to be the jobber tag team that they are. And that's what it's going to be. And Black Taurus is going to wrestle Brian Myers. Black Taurus is going to lose again. So it's whatever. But I'm liking it. Eventually, Bhupinder is going to wrestle. I don't think he should win the title because if it was a legitimate television title, yeah, but it's not. It's the digital media championship. Most wrestling fans don't even know it exists. Outside of like the Impact bubble, nobody knows this title was a thing. I mean, there's wrestling companies I don't watch and I know what their titles are. You feel me on that? So, right. So after this, they had Tiffany Nieves, which Tom kept calling her Nieves, which was, as a Hispanic, really pissing me off. But she took on Jada Stone. So these were two FCW wrestlers that they were saying won some kind of showcase to wrestle on Impact. I remember them vaguely. I don't remember if I saw it on social media or I've watched a couple FCW episodes here just for the hell of it when I'm like bored. But I saw somewhere that there was supposed to be some kind of something where two people were going to end up wrestling on Impact. I don't remember what the rules were, what it was. I just knew that I vaguely remember hearing something about that. But 99.9, pretty much 9 out of 9 people who were watching this show didn't know what the hell was going on. They just, they just throw it out. Hey, these two girls, they won a shot. It wasn't mentioned the week before. They didn't do any kind of cross promotions where you could kind of get people involved and maybe bounce them over to that platform and watch the show and see who could possibly come over to Impact. So we might even know who they are before they show up. And that way we could be invested in an actual match. So there's two girls we never heard of before. And when you do that, you can't have a long match. You can't just be like, hey, here's two people. Here's Tits McGee and Jenny Jiggle Thighs, and they're gonna wrestle. You'd not heard of any of them before. And they had a match. Like this wasn't, I was thinking, okay, they're gonna come out, do like 2 moves, and then I already knew Killer Kelly was coming out. So I was thinking, okay, they're going to do 2 moves and then Killer Kelly's going to come out. They actually had a match. It was not particularly good, but it wasn't bad at the same time. I thought Jada Stone showed some kind of unique offense. The other girl, she was okay. I didn't see anything really stood out. They weren't horrible, but it was a little difficult to watch. You got to remember that the live audience doesn't know dick creatively what's going on. If you go to an Impact show, you were just watching a bunch of matches. You were seeing a bunch of wrestling with no context behind it whatsoever. You don't know if something's for number 1 contendership. You don't know if something's for a feud. You don't know if something is a storyline that's leading to something at the pay-per-view. You're just watching people freaking wrestle. That's it. You know nothing. Okay. they're starting to say, hey, this match is for the number one contendership. They're doing some stuff like that now, because that was one of the things I was saying. Why doesn't Penzer ever tell the crowd what the hell's going on? But they're so worried about spoilers. I don't see spoilers getting around right now like they used to. So, and it's part of it's the way that the show is formatted. But because they format the show like that, the crowd doesn't know dick. And when Killer Kelly came out, these girls wrestled. The finish for the match was horrible, absolutely horrible. That I will say, horrendous. Killer Kelly comes out. She got a little bit of a pop, and I thought the crowd reacted to her. We know who she is. She's wrestled a couple times on the show. She's been rumored to be signed with the company over the years. I think she wrestled at NXT, right? I think she had a different name though. People were semi-familiar with her, okay? But here's the thing. In a Facebook group, there were some people talking about this, and they were saying, why didn't people react more for Killer Kelly coming out? They were doing those cool video packages. I was like, because the live audience didn't see the video packages. It's one thing if they ran the video packages, which they very well could have freaking done in the last set of tapings. Like for the last 3 episodes, play the damn vignettes. And then when you switch venues, switch locations, then you have her show up so the crowd knows that she's coming. Now, if you watch the show live, that doesn't necessarily mean. I know that Impact shows I've gone to, I didn't watch them on TV after that. I think there was 1 or 2 I did. I guess it all depends on the person. But at least some of the people in the audience are going to be expecting Killer Kelly to show up at some point. You feel me on that? You see what I'm saying? But she, the match was laid out for her to come and take these girls out. This wasn't a showcase for either of them, for people to be like, oh, are they going to show up on Impact again? It was nothing like that. This was strictly, and the fact that they even put this out to these wrestlers at one point, hey, you're getting an opportunity to wrestle on Impact. That just makes it even more like ridiculous, because it wasn't a random match. It was something they worked for, and then they got shown up during it. As far as Killer Kelly goes, everyone's very excited to see her. The couple matches she had in Impact, I'd said I don't really see a whole lot in her, but she's got a really good look. Even especially now, she kind of ditched the fighter gimmick. I like what she's doing now. I think she looks a lot different. Of course, she's red like everything else on this damn show. When she came out, it was just like this sea of red. It could have been Scott D'Amore for all we know. But she comes out. She put on a submission hold that I thought was pretty cool, because that's what I mentioned it earlier. Where's the cool finishers? I've been saying that for a few months now. Where's the cool finishers in Impact? It's a DDT, it's a pile driver, it's a spear. We saw a damn, pile driver on the episode. I'm trying to think how some of the other matches. We saw some variants in these finishers this episode at least. But big splash off the top rope. It's where's the cool finishers? So she does this submission move that I hadn't seen before. I'm sure I've seen a variant of it, and I thought that was really cool. I like that one a lot. And then she did like a double underhook face plant. I believe it's the move that Awesome Kong used to use, and EC3 used it for one match. He's like, it's the ECD. If any of you guys remember that. This was back when they were completely spinning their wheels with him. They didn't know if he was a heel or babyface. They didn't know what the hell to do with him, because they didn't have him win the title from Lashley at the Bound for Glory like they needed to do, and then they were completely lost. But yeah, he did that move, and he's like, it's the ECD. Didn't catch on at all. Never used it again. I think it's the same as the Angel's Wing move, isn't it? I don't know. Some of these moves look so much like each other. It's hard to. But anyway, as far as the 2 moves she used, I liked it. I thought it looked good. So the Killer Kelly debut, I thought got over well. But the live audience, from the beginning of these 2 girls walking out to her leaving, had no clue what the hell was going on. Tasha Steelz was pretty good on commentary. It's good to see Tasha Steelz again, because we're like, where's Tasha Steelz? And Impact does a good job with when a champion loses their title, they stay off TV for a little bit. They don't just show up the next, like they do on Monday Night Raw, show up the next night. very first segment of the show and asked for a rematch. They keep them off TV, almost like they're trying to regather themselves, rethink their strategy or whatever. So it worked. Tasha Steelz is very, very good at what she does. She's shown a lot of promise. I came across a Tasha Steelz thumbnail today that I had done for the channel when she debuted or when she signed. And, if you guys haven't heard me say it before, she was in the NWA before Impact. She was a babyface. Her character was nothing like it is now. And the thumbnail was just like her flexing and, she's smiling and happy to be here. I'm like, man, that's so far off from what Tasha Steelz is now and how long she's come. I always said Kiera Hogan was their best homegrown talent over the last couple of years, someone they took from scratch and made something. Her and Rohit Raju. I think they showed up roughly around the same time too. Right now, Tasha Steelz is that person, which, yeah, she did some NWA stuff, but for the most part, they're taking her from A to B, and they're doing a very good job with her, and she's just doing a very good job. What wasn't good though was this Violent by Design thing talking in the stairwell. They do this weird thing. They do it with locker room talk and all that, where someone's talking directly to the camera. I don't know in what television people do that. They don't do it on TV. They don't do it on movies. Like, you don't look at the camera. That's just, it looks super amateur. And I know that they're just trying to do something different. And I'm always saying, do something different. Try some new camera angles. But I don't mean get away from the basics of recording someone with a camera. You're getting, like, when I say different angles, I mean, they're talking and you're shooting from down here, almost looking up at him or something like that, or you're coming down from him, or you're further than you normally would, and it's showing a full body shot or something like that. You know what I mean? But just this talking to the camera thing is so freaking 8th grade. So this stuff isn't hitting for me for that reason. I'm not connecting with that at all. They run down some matches here, to We Own the Night. And what have I been saying? I guess probably since the top of the year. You sit there and you say, okay, here's all the Emergence matches, and then they read off the Impact card, and then they read off the New Japan stuff, and they're doing it super slow. They're like, what's going to happen when this and this? Like, instead of just giving us the matches, so they're wasting like 2 minutes of television. It's like the company's like, hey, waste as much time as possible. So they're reading off these matches that We Own the Night. So I paid attention to this on what was I watching? I was watching not Dynamite, but Rampage. And they had several shows that there was Battle for the Belts, the next Rampage, and the next Dynamite. So they're doing the same thing, listing off these matches. And I listened very closely, and they changed the song for every single card, every group of matches. As the graphics changed, so did the music. And that's what I'm always saying. Like, if you just read the Emergence card over We Own the Night, you're just promoting an episode of Impact. Josh Alexander took on Shera. I was wondering why this wasn't the main event. It wasn't very long, wasn't very good, particularly. I guess Shera actually got injured in this match, like real world injured, and that's why it came off the way it did, and it wasn't very long. It's unfortunate for Shera because this was kind of his opportunity to have an actual good match, because what the hell do you do with him at this point? Him and Raj, I really felt him and Raj needed Bhupinder, and the three of them could have done something. They could have been something. But, it's whatever. I mean, not everyone can get pushed. There's got to be jobbers on the roster. But, I mean, have Raj wrestle for once if someone's going to lose, instead of having Shera lose all the time like that. What do we else? We got Jim Miller was backstage with Moose asking about his relationship with Steve Macklin. Remember when Moose was one of the biggest and best parts of the show every single week? I will take it all the way back to his feud with Ken Shamrock. And, he was going to the training facility, and when he was going to the shooting baskets, he had those like they're very 1980s Mr. Perfect type of segments. But he was doing all these things super entertaining. Everything he did was absolute gold. And now we barely hear him talk. We don't see him wrestle. Now, when he was the champion, we get it, okay? You don't want the champion wrestling every damn week. But he hasn't been the champion in a while. He still doesn't wrestle. Is he hurt? I think we've been hearing those rumors that the guy might be injured potentially. But he's not doing a whole lot on the show. He's a small part of the show. And again, this is why I'm saying they have to be focusing on a Ring of Honor wrestling heavy show, because if you have Moose out there and he's all charismatic and he's making everything solid gold, and then Josh Alexander steps out 10 minutes later, rah, I'm happy to be here, go TNA, let's go have an awesome match, it's going to overshadow him, so but I don't know, like Moose was a really, really good part of the show at one point, And then C. Macklin nowhere to be seen on the episode. These are two out of my top 3 favorite wrestlers, so that's the only reason I have interest in this storyline, because I want them to be teamed up, actually. They're going after Sami Callihan. I don't know. On Brace for Impact, my boy Mike, they were talking about, maybe Jon Moxley will come and team up with Sami Callihan. Like, I agree with JD. Like, there's zero chance that's happening. But Sammy's going to team up with somebody. We'll see what it is. What do we got after that? Honor No More confronts Scott D'Amore. So Scott's got to be on every episode. Talking about the Heath, the one-man band, the one-man attack, one-man wrecking crew, taking out these guys every week. You notice he's never touched PCO. He's the only one. So I wonder where that ties in, because obviously there's something going on with PCO. I don't know. It's so hard to care about Honor No More because they didn't make us care. Like at one point it was like, yo, this is badass. And that lasted like 2 weeks. And then they started taking L's, and, we thought this was going to be a Nexus. We thought this was going to be an NWO. But they've been closer to OVE. Am I wrong? They've been a little better because at least they beat people sometimes. But they're closer to OVE than they are the NWO. I guess everyone's closer to OVE than the NWO because that's iconic. But you get where I'm going with it. But they're talking about whatever. Eddie does a good job though. He's done a good job with this heel stuff. I just don't think he's just in a different place on the card because he's not on the babyface side of it. But I don't think he has done anything with this storyline to elevate himself further. That's why we were intrigued with the Honor No More stuff, because why Eddie, why, and all that. Like, we really thought this dude was going to take the next step. To an extent, he has, because he's probably doing the best mic work that he's ever done in his career. And you could throw him in the main event tomorrow, and it'll work. But it's just there's just not that level of growth that I was expecting. There's a little segment here with Chelsea Green and Deonna Purrazzo. They're dressed alike. They make this work. We were getting this virtuosa thing where she's coming out in the black and this, and she's, royalty. She's the queen. And that worked. And she was a champion. She was holding all these titles. She was doing the champ challenge. So props to Impact, because they recognize when something is going to get stale and they change course. And that's what they did here with Havoc. I'm always saying Decay doesn't beat anybody. Me and TW can beat them. We could beat all 4 of them. Okay. And, TW tell you he's overweight. Me, I have weak ankles, but we can do it. We could beat 2-on-4. We could beat Decay. So I think they recognize this isn't working. So we're going to make Taurus and Steve the jobbers that they are. And we're going to find something creative to do with these girls. They're able to breathe some life into Rosemary, teaming her back up with Taya. It is not the same as before Taya left. Their pairing is not the same. So there is something, and I'm gonna get to it at one point. I'm gonna figure it out. There's something in the presentation of the TV show, there's something within the format that we're not connecting with the characters the same. I'm gonna figure out what it is. I do think part of it is the camera angle, to where there's, they're just showing the Impact screensaver in the background. I mean, I can't think of a single Impact fan that likes that setup. I feel like everyone's like, show the damn crowd. And I think when you were showing, you don't even have to go back to Orlando. Like when Scott and Don first took over, they were still doing that same basic view, but they had the entrance ramp on the right side of the ring as opposed to the left. So when we were watching it in Orlando, they were coming from the left side of the ring. Scott and Don, at first had them coming for the right. So you still saw the crowd, but it was still, it had elements of what we were used to, and they changed it up a little. But I really do think showing the wrestlers wrestle in front of people really helps. Also, the backstage segments are just, they look like they're shot with my Uncle Hector's camcorder. And they sound like it too. So I do think that's part of it, because if you remember, they've been doing it back forever. Back to whatever TNA days when they did the backstage segments, there was this shaky cam, but they were very, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. There was a certain seriousness about them to where it felt real. You know what I mean? I guess that it just felt very real. Even to the point that I remember saying on some of my earlier podcasts, like, yo, someone crack a joke, someone smile, because I thought they were like too serious. And that now they've kind of like gone to that extreme. They've pulled back on the comedy, but there's just something about the way they're just presenting the damn show. We're not connecting the same. Like Rosemary and Taya are not as cool as Rosemary and Taya a year ago, or however, when they were together before. It's not even freaking close. Why? I think there was the one dynamic where they were babyface heel, and then they were both heels, and we kind of got heel Rosemary for a little bit again, which is, we were enjoying, and now it's like just very silly, because now Rosemary is also being silly. But taking that all the way back around to Deonna and Chelsea, they have, course corrected Deonna a little bit, saying, okay, we can't, she's not a title holder anymore. She can't do all the, she took a few L's, so she can't say, hey, I'm the best wrestler. Like they had to adjust things a little bit. And this is really good. They're, real life best friends. I've seen them interact in real life. Them two and Britt Baker, really close. I've seen them in real life interact. You can tell they really like each other. Jessica comes out, and you probably think I'm going to be like, what the hell is this, right? I think Havoc in this Jessica role is freaking hilarious. She is just having a ball. She's having a blast doing this. We're getting like a bit of her character and her personality it's probably close to who she is in real life, turned up, of course. But the decay version of Havoc, we liked the idea of it at first. Like, okay, cool, they added her decay, but wasn't clicking, wasn't working. The whole stable just wasn't working. So, they obviously split Rosemary off, but this Jessica thing is, I think it's funny. I think she's funny. I just get that vibe from her, that she's just being herself. She is not acting. She's not reading a script. Like she's just being her. And it's really funny. So she's not anyone I've ever met in real life, but I just get a feeling that like this is just a turned up version of her. So kind of enjoying it. I still think they got to get the titles off Rosemary and Taya if they're going to be silly. I mean, if you saw Rosemary through this whole thing, like she's a comedy character now, very far from what we really fell in love with her with. But we all like Rosemary. No, there's no one who's like, I don't like Rosemary. We all love Rosemary. So whatever role they have her in, we're okay, we're kind of okay with it, right? Because we just like Rosemary. We don't want Rosemary to go anywhere. As long as Rosemary's in the company, whatever they got her doing, we'll rock with it. You feel me? Raj Singh was in the ring talking about Skittles or bubble gum, God knows what. And then Sammy Callahan attacks him. I have no interest in the Sammy Callahan stuff, the lights out and the hacker stuff. I'm not. It doesn't work for me. I don't like it. And then they showed the woo off finally, showing all this Ric Flair shit, which Ric Flair is only having this last match because he's publicly said my last match was in TNA, and I can't live with that. But here we are promoting the freaking match. But I mean, there was a lot of Impact people in the card. Makes sense. But they finally showed the woo off. That is probably the one segment, the one flashback, throwback segment that we'll actually sit and watch because it actually is a genuine classic. They try to pass off, oh, here's Rhino versus McGillicuddy McFucker, and here this Impact classic, like whatever, So this was an actual classic moment, so it was cool. Gia Miller interviews Mia Yim, and Mia Yim looked good here. She looked damn good. This match that her and Jordan Grace are going to have is going to be Knockouts match of the year. I already know that. The match hasn't even happened yet. These girls are going to destroy it. And so I'm really excited for that match. Kind of wish it was a Bound for Glory match personally. But this just kind of tells me Bound for Glory is probably going to be some kind of triple threat or four-way match. That's personally what I think. I think it's going to be like Taya, Jordan, Mia, and they're going to have Mickie James do something. They wrote Mickie James off TV for a little bit because she lost. But she's going to come back at some point. Mickie James is just a character that has to come and go. Totally get it. But this Emergence match is going to be effing excellent. So after this was a backstage segment where Scott is like running and you know how he talks. That sounds exactly like him. You know it. Why did you die? And Josh, Honor No More is like, okay, so I got to rewind here a little bit. Mia Yim and Gia are doing their backstage thing, and then it shows static and this, and then they're saying, okay, sorry for the technical difficulties. I no shit thought that was a real technical difficulty, and that when Impact was editing the show, they were, oh shit, this footage got messed up. We can't go back and redo it. I legitimately thought that. And then we know it's a taped episode, so when you're messing with the broadcast truck, I mean, come on. Honor No More, who, again, we wanted it to be the NWO, we wanted it to be the Nexus, we wanted it to be like this stable, just destroying. To get their point across, we don't even know what their mission is anymore. But to get their point across, they are messing with the wires and the cables and the broadcast. That's what it's come to. So then Scott loses his shit and says, okay, you guys want your tag team title shot. You're gonna have 5-on-5 at 5-on-5 at Emergence. Again, these freaking teams. But at least there's stakes this time. That if Honor No More loses, they have to disband. Who the hell cares at this point if they disband? Because they're not, they're still on this, Impact, they're against Impact. Like, they lose half the time. They're not, if anything, Sammy Callahan is disrupting the show more than they are. So why do we care if they disband? The thing is, the fans actually don't want them to, a lot of them, because they want to see them used differently. But these are just a bunch of random guys thrown together. It worked, but then Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor, and it's almost like Impact pulled the plug on these dudes. What I was thinking when this happened was like, so Honor No More is going to disband if they lose. But if they win, all they get is a shot at the tag team titles. Eddie should get a shot for the world title. Kenny King should get a shot for the um, X Division Championship. Vincent should get a shot at the Digital Media Championship. That's all their titles, right? Give PCO a shot at Zack Ryder's Internet Championship. And then these guys, I mean, have something like some real freaking stakes here, because Honor No More's not going to win, guys. They're not going to. I guess anything can happen, but they're probably not going to. We see where this is going, so why not load up the stakes and just make this more interesting? Give us a teaser of Eddie maybe getting his title shot against Josh Alexander. That way we're kind of anticipating it when it doesn't happen, and hopefully he works back up to that at Bound for Glory. But just it's almost like saying, telling an employee, if you don't accomplish this task, you're fired. But if you do accomplish the task, we're going to consider you for Employee of the Week. That's how that comes off to me. But I have absolutely no interest in this match. My God. Hikuleo's in it. I'm trying to think how the match. I guess Ace Austin wasn't in the previous matches because I know El Phantasmo was. So I mean, I guess they're switching it up a little, but oh my Lord, people, this freaking feud, folks. Next week they let us know we were going to get Rosemary versus Deonna Purrazzo, so that'll be cool. Brian Myers against Black Taurus. We're going to see how good that match is. Masha Slamovich is going to take on Giselle Shaw. They've done a good job with taking their time with Masha. It's not like Lady Frost, who they just kind of rushed into whatever they're trying to do with her. And, I guess to an extent with Giselle Shaw too, but it's panned out for Giselle Shaw a lot more. But that should be a good one. What I was saying last week was that, if Masha's going to squash people, I want them to kick their ass, not I hit you twice and then hit the finisher. Like, that's not a squash. That's just nonsense. So hopefully that's not what they do to Giselle. Because Alicia might be my favorite knockout, but she barely wrestles. So next in line for me is Giselle Shaw. I don't want to see her go out there and just job. Like, if she loses, cool, but don't just hit her with a forearm and then the snowplow. And then Doc Gallows versus PCO in a Derby City street fight. So we're gonna get a main event of grab ass and ball slapping, stop signs. Oh, my God. Even though they haven't been doing these street fights weekly like they used to do, I mean, I could at this point would be happy if I didn't see a street fight for the next 3 years. And then you busted it out. I still probably wouldn't want to see it, but in that case, I could probably live with it. But oh my God, I don't want to see this. Again, there's only so many ways I can watch Bridget B do her thing or people do their thing to her. There's only so many ways. All right. Then the main event, Rich Swann versus Kushida. They have had several Japanese wrestlers show up this year. I don't know any of them. I'm familiar with the names, but every time, and I'm not trying to sound racist here. I always preface by saying my old lady's Asian, so I'm not trying to sound racist, okay? But when they name off one of these Japanese dudes, I'm just like, wasn't he on the show last time? I mean, I feel like the names just sound so similar that, if you watch New Japan and you're familiar with these dudes, you obviously know who they're talking about. But when they're like, Hasegawa and Maki, Tanahashi and Shido and Sakazuki, and they're just saying these names, like, they just sound, I don't know the difference between that wrestler and the person who was on the show before, so, but I know Kushida's a big deal. I know he's a big deal. This is I want to say he's the biggest star. Was he in NXT? Was he the guy? But I want to say he's the biggest star that's appeared on the show. But they've had multiple guys. Couldn't tell you who they were. You could say a name and I could be like, weren't they here before? So yeah, that definitely was racist what I was saying. So my bad. Not purposely though, but it wasn't very sensitive. I know I don't like my last name messed with, so my apologies if that offended anybody. So good main event. I'm thinking though, Rich Swann is gonna get back on track here. They laid the groundwork last episode where he's like, I used to be a world champion here. He finally, after a year and a half, has acknowledged I used to be the damn world champion in this bitch. And that he got off track. And now he's got to get back on track. They didn't give him and Willie Mack the tag team titles, which they should have because they wanted the Good Brothers to carry them forever. So he has not got momentum for shit. He had the joke title for a little bit, and that's all it was. He dropped it almost immediately. He dropped it like in his first defense. So, Scott tells him like, well, okay, well, I got something for that ass, and gives him Kushida. So I'm thinking, okay, Rich Swann's going to get this win. Kushida doesn't need to win, but of course, every time someone comes from another company, Impact has them win. AEW's never done that, with the exception of this Forbidden Door pay-per-view. Those New Japan guys have never beat anybody on the AEW roster. So they had a really good match. Kushida has that finisher, that surfboard or something along those lines. I'm trying to see if I can find hoverboard. That is one of the most dangerous moves I have ever seen in my life. Granted, he knows how to do it. He knows how to do it safe. Rich Swann is a professional. He's a professional, but God, that's a dangerous move. There's a few moves like that made me cringe. With the Muscle Buster being one of them. Chelsea Green's, whatever the hell she calls it, the kill switch that Christian Cage does. The way she jumps up. I just think of, if you ever seen when Marty Jannetty did the rocker dropper on a guy back in the 80s, or it was like early 90s actually, and the guy jumped and he paralyzed them. That's what I feel like is coming from Chelsea's move. But this move's like super dangerous. And they had Rich Swann lose via tap out. So when you had 1 week where you look like you're gonna heat Rich Swann up, he just becomes another dude on the roster again. Kushida didn't need to win. This is why I say this. They probably want Kushida to wrestle for the X Division Championship at Bound for Glory. Or maybe at an Impact Plus, maybe he's going to wrestle at Emergence for the title. Clearly they want something like that. But Kushida can still lose, and him and Rich Swann can shake hands after the match, and we can forget that he lost. Mike Bailey can bump into him backstage like how they do most storylines and shake his hand and say, I would love to defend his title against you. He didn't have to win. Okay? There are ways to get around someone losing and still, you shouldn't lose and get a title shot, but that has not stopped any company from doing that. So, Rich Swann needed the momentum of this win. My God. What the hell do you do with him now? Because it sounds like Swann is going to get a title shot here soon. Probably at the next Impact Plus show before Bound for Glory. That's what I'm thinking. And again, it's just going to be another good match because Swann took a step backwards, taking this loss. So what the hell is the story going to be? There's not a redemption storyline because you already killed that. So again, you're just relying on, okay, well, these two are going to have an awesome match. We're going to put it on paper, Josh Alexander for Rich Swann. People know it's going to be good. And that's all we got to do. So that is my opinion on it. I still think you could have given Kushida a high-profile match at whatever show you're trying to do it at, but by losing. Like, again, they could have shook hands after the match, Swan leaves looking stronger. This guy leaves, and then you find a way. Someone compliments him backstage, gives him a hug, grabs his ass, something. But instead it's like, hey, come to our company, beat our people. That is what is happening every single damn time. Even El Phantasmo showed up and got an X Division title shot. He showed up, wrestled in a 5-way, wins. That's just the way it is. Private Party, who doesn't beat anybody on AEW, show up and they, I think they wrestled a couple matches. They won on Impact, and then they had James Storm take the pin or something instead of him. Instead of Private Party. So that's frustrating for us fans. But overall, it just continues to be a good show because it can't be a bad show because the matches are too good for it to be a bad show. But it's just in between segments that it's silly and it's not thought out, and it's the stories aren't there, folks. The Jessica stuff, I'm there for it, even though it's comedy. But just the way she interacted with Deanna and Chelsea, and then the way she interacted with Taya, to where like Rosemary's the odd man out. I mean, that shit's freaking hilarious to me. But you're not doing a good thing for Rosemary when you're leaning towards comedy with her. That's my opinion. Whatever. She usually makes anything work, but that's just my opinion. So that is going to do it. It's going to do her for me tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Try to bring a little bit more energy because it's different when I don't have TW, because TW has all this energy, and then you got monotone BQ talking. So I did my best to deliver this the best way that I possibly could. So we're hoping to do a mailbag soon. I've been working 6 days a week. So usually Wednesday, which is my day off, is when we would do mailbags. But I've been doing my, like, if you're familiar with the Garden Reserve, you know that you have to do 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out of the year. I've been working every Wednesday on my day off and just letting it compile for my 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Instead of like knocking it out a week or 2 weeks in a row, I just work on my day off. So we haven't had an opportunity for a while to do a mailbag, but we're hoping to do one soon. And if we don't, we're hoping to just kind of do a spin-off of this podcast and talk about some things going on. I know I want to talk with him about, with now the Triple H's in power over WWE. How does that affect the wrestling landscape? How does that affect Impact? TW is going to have some good thoughts about it because he watches everything for the most part, as far as the major companies go. So I'm curious to hear what he has to say. And then, we'll be able to chat with you guys when we talk about that too, and whatever else it is. So I'm your boy BQ. I'm going to get ready for bed here. Thanks for checking me out as always. And this is The Lounge. I'm out. Peace.